Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 13, The Paladin of the Holy Kingdom. Inside the operations room, Remedio's Custodio and 3 paladins studied a force distribution chart. Unlike how she would make people sigh in exasperation most of the time, her mind was nimble and perceptive when it came to warfare. While her younger sister would say, "You've got a great body there, all you need now is to study a little more," she could not have gained her present fighting skill if she had heeded that advice. That was because she was different from her sister, who had been blessed with 3 gifts: wisdom, talent, and beauty. Our fighting strength is 10,000. Theirs is estimated at 40,000. Our win conditions are to hold on until reinforcements from the south arrive, or the enemy retreats. We might actually be able to do it if there were 10 of me around. If the members of the 9 colors who had been chosen for their fighting strength were present, they might have been able to put up a good fight, but the fact remained that the present situation was incredibly grim. If we want to buy time, we need to counterattack the enemy hard during their first offensive. That'll put the enemy on their guard and give us the time we need. After all, the enemy doesn't know what forces we possess, right? She had also seriously considered the proposal of launching a first strike. They could gather their forces at the east gate and crush the enemy there in one mighty blow, before wheeling around to head for the west gate. However, she had quickly reached the conclusion all would be lost if they failed. It was very likely that the west gate would be lost to the enemy's main force, before they defeated the small detachment positioned at the east gate, and thus the city would fall. And of course, there was the disparity between their forces. They had to compensate for that gap if they wanted to win. But that's impossible. Remedios wrinkled her brow and looked at the tokens placed on the map. She hoped for a flash of inspiration to descend from on high. However, no such thing happened. Do you lot have any ideas? Yes. Personally speaking. She listened to the paladin's proposal, shot it down, then asked for more ideas, and the process repeated until none of them could come up with anything. Just then, a knock rang through the weighty silence of the room. "Captain, you're here." The person who entered was the Vice Captain Gustav Montaigne. It felt like she had been saved by the bell. It would seem the other paladins in the room also felt that way, as a faint glimmer of hope appeared on their crestfallen faces. "Ah, you came just in time. I wanted to ask if you had any ideas." Remedios gestured to the map sprawled across the table with her chin. It would seem Gustav had gotten her meaning, because he nodded. "I can supply a suggestion or two, but can I discuss a few things with you beforehand?" "What is it? Go ahead and tell me." "Ah," Gustav continued in a more subdued tone. "Actually, things have gotten quite bad. Some of the people want to know if the Sorcerer King will be taking part in the fighting." The Sorcerer King would not be fighting in this battle. This was both to recover the mana he had expended until now, and to account for the case that Jaldabaoth's plan was to make him expend mana here. Remedios had difficulty accepting the first reason, since her little sister Callard could restore her mana within a day. However, everybody else felt that the Sorcerer King could not be held to the same standards as human beings, given that he had taken back the city single-handedly, and so Remedios said nothing more. Come to think of it, there had been priests present as well, and they too had agreed with him. However, even Remedios could accept the second reason. They could tell if Jaldabaoth was hiding within the enemy ranks. In the first place, they had brought the Sorcerer King here to fight Jaldabaoth. While it would be best if both of them ended up killing each other, she had no wish to see the Sorcerer King defeated. Therefore, it was only natural for her to work as closely as she could with the Sorcerer King, so that he could fight to the fullest of his ability, even if she intensely despised the undead. Even so, there had still been some who wanted the Sorcerer King to take the field. Some of the nobles who had remained in the city had offered huge sums of money, which had made even Remedio's eyes go so wide that they looked like they might fall out of her head to induce him to fight, but the Sorcerer King had rejected their offers. What's wrong with that? The Sorcerer King wouldn't be fighting in this battle. You should know that too, right? Just tell them and be done with it. Captain, we can't tell them about this. If things go badly, no, even if all goes well, it'll cause a huge uproar. Why is that? She could not understand it. What was wrong with the Sorcerer King not fighting? After seeing the doubt written all over Remedio's face, Gustav frowned and replied. "That's because the people who watched us take back the city know that there are things which we paladins can't do, but which the Sorcerer King can accomplish with only 2 people." She still could not understand what Gustav was trying to say. "That may upset some people, but that's how things are. What's wrong with that?" "No, what I'm trying to say is, they trust the Sorcerer King more than us paladins. If the people of this city learn that the Sorcerer King, the most reliable and powerful asset we have, is not fighting, morale will plunge to rock bottom." "Trust. You do realize the Sorcerer King is undead, don't you?" "It doesn't matter that he's undead. The Sorcerer King freed the city and rescued prisoners. So to them, the Sorcerer King is a hero. A hero. Remedios rolled her eyes as she repeated Gustav's words back to him. The people think he's a hero. But he's undead, no. They hate the living and love death. He abandoned the hostages, no. He killed them off without any hesitation, didn't he? It's all the same to them. Also, it would be one thing if they simply regarded him as a hero. If this goes on, people will start thinking of the Sorcerer King as their savior. If things go wrong, it might affect the Holy Kings. The Holy Queens, you mean? Remedio's face twisted into a frown. I've said this many times already, but Kalkasama must be locked up somewhere. There were paladins and priests collapsed everywhere after that battle with Jaldabaoth, but we couldn't find Kalkasama and Colored anywhere. He wouldn't need to move her, she was dead. I'm sure she must have been taken hostage. I misspoke, Captain. I feel that it might be a problem that could cause problems for Her Majesty's reign. Her reign. Yes. Our fortress line has been smashed, and nobody can stop the demi-humans from invading. There will start to be people who want to flock to the side of a supreme being who can protect them. But he's undead, you know. I say again, it doesn't matter if he's undead. He saved them in their hour of need, didn't he? Remedios still could not understand that point. But the Sorcerer King wasn't the only one fighting, was he? We fought too, under the Holy Queen's flag. Yes. You're right. We all fought, even the common folk. But even with all that taken into consideration, if the Sorcerer King does more than us, then there might be people who would value him over the Holy Queen, and seek to make him their new ruler. Remedios unconsciously raised her voice. How did that happen? Not only is he a hero, that undead creature's being placed above the Holy Queen. Do you even know what you're saying? No, the people. It doesn't matter, he's still undead. How much suffering and effort do you think Her Majesty had to go through for the sake of the people? How could the people? Please wait, Captain. What do you mean, wait? What the hell are you talking about, Gustav? No, is that what you truly believe? In the grip of her powerful emotions, Remedios slammed her fist down on the table. As someone who had entered the realm of heroes, that blow crushed the area of the table beneath it, and gouged a chunk out, which fell to the ground. The bizarre damage pattern looked like some giant had pressed out the edge of the table, and it spoke of the extent of her anger. Please calm down, Captain. We all know the greatness and kindness of Her Majesty is a matter of course. There's no way the Sorcerer King or any other undead creature could compare to the great Holy Queen. But we only know that because we stood by the Holy Queen's side. Are you out of your mind? Even if they've never had an audience with her before, there's no way anyone would respect the undead of another country more than the ruler of their own nation. You're delusional. Captain. Gustav exclaimed, his voice close to a wail. Even if the Sorcerer King is undead and the king of another nation, he was still the one who freed them from torment. And that is something that Her Majesty, that we could not do. Gustav spewed those words out in one big burst, and the room echoed with the sound of him trying to calm his flustered breathing. What do you all think? The paladins who had previously been in the room all looked at each other as they heard Remedio's quiet voice. After that, one of them spoke up, a look of mortal determination on his face. Naturally, we paladins do not consider the Sorcerer King a hero. However, we also know that the common folk might feel that way. After that, another person spoke. Most of the people know that the Sorcerer King conquered this city with the strength of just one person. Those who have not seen the Sorcerer King's power in turn exaggerate these rumors, further defying him. The last one added. It is a fact that the Sorcerer King stepped forward by himself to offer aid to a country which was neither an ally, nor one that was friendly to him. If we disregard the fact that he is undead, those actions would qualify as heroic. It would seem Remedios was the only one who could not accept this state of affairs. In that case, how could she respond to Gustav's question after all this had sunk in? It was true that not having their hero take part in the fighting would cause morale to drop, and thinking about the reasons for that would lead to a commotion. After all, the enemy outnumbered them 4-1. Anyone would be in that frame of mind when they thought about having to fight something like that. Then why don't we paint the Sorcerer King as a villain and kill two birds with one stone? How about telling the masses that the Sorcerer King won't help us anymore? Lying would be a very bad idea, Gustav said. The mood of the people is like a dam just before it bursts. If they learn the truth through one channel or another and discover that we were trying to hide the truth, the matter would spiral out of our control. Well, we don't have to tell a flat-out lie. We can do it in a roundabout way. If the people think it's a lie, then they'll treat it as a lie. Then all we need to do is keep them from seeing the Sorcerer King, no. So if a riot breaks out or if someone wants to plead with him in person, we'll kill them off. I don't want to do that. Gustav sighed heavily. This is frustrating. The Sorcerer King showed too much of his strength. I feel we wouldn't be like this if we had taken this city back under our own power. If the worst comes to worst, the country itself might be torn apart. Who's going to stop the Sorcerer King if he declares this land an enclave of the Sorcerer Kingdom? This nation belongs to Her Majesty and the people who live upon it, not to the undead. And besides, do you think the surrounding nations will accept that? Remedios pounded on the table again. However, Gustav's face did not change, and he interjected. They probably will. Captain, you saw them too, right, the monsters in his city. No other nation would want to become the enemy of the Sorcerer Kingdom, which possesses such frightening military power. It would be wiser to simply turn a blind eye to the Holy Kingdom, which is now impotent, and if this place becomes an enclave, the Sorcerer Kingdom's defensive strength will be divided between two fronts, and many of the nearby countries will agree that it is a good thing. And if the people wish for this to happen as well, the Sorcerer King will have just cause for his actions. So being a country of the undead is better than being a nation whose people can't even defend themselves. Is that how it is, Vice Captain? Gustav nodded at the Paladin's question. Just so. Gustav, did I make a mistake in bringing the Sorcerer King back here? Of course not, Captain. It was the best choice at the time. However, it is true that we've relied too much on the Sorcerer King's power. Like I said earlier, if we had taken back those prison camps with our own strength, we wouldn't be in this situation now. For all we know, the people might still fear and hate the Sorcerer King, being that he's one of the undead. So what should we do? We need to appease the people, buy time, and defeat the enemy army by ourselves. If we can't even do that, then even if we defeat Jaldabaoth, the fighting might still continue. Remedios looked up to the ceiling. Then that's what we have to do. Damn that Sorcerer King, did he plan all this out beforehand? I don't know. I really don't know. But he might have. Maybe he desires to expand his domain. Is the Sorcerer Kingdom very small? I wouldn't say it's very small, but it's true that the Sorcerer Kingdom is only his city and the land around it, as well as that plain which is rumored to spawn large quantities of the undead. So that was why he had his eyes on the Holy Kingdom's land. There was certainly more than enough evidence to lead to that conclusion. That damn undead creature. We should have asked for Momon's strength after all. Perhaps things might have ended the same if Momon had come. The shock would simply not have been as great as the impact which the Sorcerer King made. The king conquering a city by himself is an incredibly striking image. The fact that said king is one of the undead who are our nation's sworn enemies is also a big factor in this. In other words, a villain doing a good thing had a greater impact than an average person doing the same thing. Damn it. Now that silence had returned to the room, Remedios, who finally realized that Gustav was asking for her opinion, gave her orders. We'll discuss this with Caspian Sama. If perhaps, though I feel it's not too likely, just in case, Her Majesty has passed away, then he is the most eligible person to be the next Holy King. Since we have not yet found any other members of the royal family, that will certainly be the case. We'll go ask his opinion of all this, then. Remedios left the paladins in the room and led Gustav to Caspian's room. In the end, things turned out just like Gustav had predicted. The conclusion was that they would delay in answering the people, and if the enemy should attack during this time, they would face them without the assumption of the Sorcerer King's assistance and beat them back, thus showing the world that the strength of the Holy Kingdom was still undiminished.